now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Well, hello all. I know it is Friday. Hard to believe it. We've made it live in Los Angeles through the hellhole that is LA. It's crazy with the it's positively gorgeous in LA today. If you didn't know, as is being trumpeted by everyone, that something was going on in town, you would never guess that this anything but the most wonderful day ahead. So, for those of you joining on the East Coast, how about the East Coasters? God damn it. 2 to 4 on the East Coast. We are live every day. We try to circumvent every difficult challenge we are presented with, one of which hit us yesterday, KO'd our entire platform on StreamYard, which is the major platform used by a lot of podcasters. That's why a lot of podcasts were down yesterday. Yeah, pretty brutal. We put our best people on it, and we were told there's nothing they could do.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, but Albert is here today.
Albert, thank you.
Kim is here
Kim,
today.
how are you?
I'm here today. David Katz will be here today. Wow. It's going to rock today. We will get you through legal questions. We'll get you through constitutional questions. We'll get you through the geopolitics of what's happening in Iran. And Chaplain Fred leads us off right away. He is becoming a high-profile contributor on this show. $50 super chat. Hello, Mark. Just wanted to say that I am glad that Newsom is taking control of the National Guard. Finally, the Dems are stepping up. This is getting out of hand. Trump messed up with the wrong state. Trump messed with the wrong state, he says. You'll give me the latest, because legally there's been a back and forth as to who has control of the National Guard. But it was yesterday that the law, in the form of the courts, did confer back onto the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, control of the National Guard. An appeals court soon after reversed that ruling. What is the very latest, Kim?
The ruling is that the appeals court has paused the ruling requiring Trump to return control of the California National Guard. So for now, we have to wait until Tuesday for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to take up the matter again.
So for now, the control of the National Guard remains with the president. So this is perhaps illegal. We'll talk to David Katz about that in a moment. But that's, the law is interpreted and defined by judicial rulings. And there just was a judicial ruling that says, hey, the president controls the National Guard now. He's within his power. Why is ICE going after unionized farm workers? Asked Jim Eaton for the $2 super chat. I touched on this yesterday, touched on it the day before, probably touched on it the days before that. It makes no sense. It is a deliberately brutal immigration policy that this administration has, and that policy is designed to have a chilling effect on immigrants, to have a chilling effect on their desire to come to this country, to harass a segment of the society, the immigrant segment of society, Latinos in particular, who are working in these critical industries in California and in America. So I talked about this again ad nauseum, but it's worth revisiting, and I'm glad you've touched on it, because it will have a dramatic effect on the economy of California. You already see now people not showing up to work in agricultural fields throughout the Central Valley, strawberry pickers, slaughterhouse workers, all of these people who are doing the jobs that, frankly, you and I don't want to do. They are the backbone, if you will, of a huge area of the U.S. economy, and they are being chased out of those jobs. They are being arrested and deported, or they're being intimidated to the point that they don't want to show up for work. It's the same kind of intimidation that goes on when we talk about voter suppression, where You don't have any outstanding warrants or anything like this to your knowledge, but you don't want to go to a polling place because now they put so many police there. They put so many military officers there. You begin to instill in the population fear that they could be scooped up randomly, even by mistake, and end up in Louisiana or Guantanamo or El Salvador. And then it's very hard to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So you end up with what we have now, which is terror. This is a terrorized community across California and across America. It's happening in New York as well, as you know. It happened in Omaha in that slaughterhouse. So this is a full-scale effort on the part of this administration. Then I want to get to David Katz, but to essentially set a dragnet out over the entire country and to establish that they're picking up everybody. They're not picking up violent criminals. They're not picking up people with criminal records, threats to the community. No. They're picking up a man and wife whose 12-year-old son just graduated, elementary school, now going into junior high school, is now without parents. Yeah, those parents worked in the fashion district. They were innocent members of society, if you will. Their only violation was coming into this country, perhaps undocumented, or their sin in this case and illegality was associated with overstaying their visa. But their damage to society is zero. They're actually contributing to society economically, socially, culturally, etc. I think this horrifyingly brutal immigration policy exposes a lot of things and should make you think about immigrants and how valuable they are to America. This has to be rethought. And the crisis at the border is only one facet of immigration and immigration policy. They focus on the open border, the Democrats' open border. They're coming here. They're communists. They're Marxists. They're people in torn T-shirts and jeans who are just trying to make a living. I'm not saying it should be an open border, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't regulate that immigrant flow. But it's a far cry, those modifications. It's a far cry from what's happening now. I mean, this is an absolute abomination. It's reckless. And we're going to find out right now about the legality of all of this. So David Katz is going to join us in about 45 seconds. I say 45 seconds because I do want to note the attack on Iran from Israel. I want to speak about that, and I want to x-ray that a bit at the beginning of the second hour of this show. I'll do it with Michael Shure, who joins us in the second hour. I also want to mention that Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, it's Fridays. We will give you a sense of streaming, of movies, his reviews in the second hour. So we've got a lot to get to. Thank you for smashing the like button.
Smash
and
it with your iron rod.
We'll be here for you.
How does the internet work?
Well, you just smash that little thumbs up. That's all you have to do. And, if you're on YouTube, that's all that's required. If you're listening across the iHeartRadio network or on Spotify or on iTunes, welcome. Let's get it on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is a remarkable legal analyst. He's one of the most outstanding legal analysts across the English-speaking world. You can hear him on London radio and see him on London television. You can also see him here in this country on News Nation, on Fox News Channel, and in New Zealand, Australia. Any place they're speaking English, they want to get the analysis of this man. He is so generous to be with us today because yesterday we had the sky fall on us with the iCloud. It was the Google Cloud that went down yesterday for a time, and it KO'd our ability to bring him on as a guest. Then he is the esteemed defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, David Katz, everyone.
Great to be with you.
Thank you so much, my friend, for being with us today. Give me the legalities of what's happening now. And you can start, it seems, again, there's so many sides to this. I mean, legal issues wrapped up in this immigration thing and the takeover of Los Angeles by the feds. I wonder if you can start where you want, but I'll hit you with some follow-ups along the way.
Well, let me start with the fact that I'm normally on with you on Thursday at noon. So I hope people who are used to watching you on Friday will tune in and see me on Thursday at noon, because we have a great show and we usually have a little bit more time than I understand we have today.
That's right. And that's noon Pacific time, just to be clear about that. It's on Thursdays. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
The other thing I'd like to say is it's remarkable how quickly all of these events have ensued. And it brings it home to me because just 1 week ago, last Friday, I was at the federal building, this notorious federal building that's been at the heart of the news. It was also where this outrageous incident with our Senator Padilla took place. So this federal building, I don't know if you guys have a map of it at all, but it's right downtown and it's very near an entrance to the 101 freeway. What else is interesting about it is that, so if a demonstration gets out of hand there, it's very likely, and this has happened in the past, that the demonstrators, especially the ones who want to cause, more disruption than the normal peaceful protester, will do one of two things, Mark. They'll go on the overpass, and of course, it's scary as you're driving along. People are on the overpass, and people are worried that something may be dropped on them. And even more so, they'll go down right into the freeway. In other words, the cars enter right there next to this detention center, next to this federal building. So that is a huge risk. And part of the argument, and there's a very weak factual argument in support of Trump calling out the troops and also for him federalizing the National Guard, but that the LAPD and local authorities were not quick enough to grasp the fact that a demonstration right in front of the federal building, which was going to be right next to the federal detention center, where they're detaining the undocumented migrants that they're picking up at these workplaces, which is an outrage. It's also right next to the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Prison. So right from that spot where I happened to be last Friday, it is likely that a demonstration will start there over this, and that it will get out of hand, that it will take over the freeway, that will take over the overpass. And that's what's supposed to be the factual record, that LAPD was slow. Now, slow is an hour. I don't know what they expect from the LAPD. They have to get their teams together. This is not, you just send a few cops down there. So an hour actually, to me, is a remarkably prompt response. But it's in the brief by the Trump administration as one of the reasons that they were lackadaisical, not taking this seriously enough. And then the rest of the factual record, Mark, is that they had a conversation, I think, Saturday morning or early afternoon between Trump and Newsom. We haven't had like a readout or what you would expect, but the implication in the brief that was filed in federal court was that Trump wanted Newsom to call out the National Guard, which in a way doesn't make any sense, but that's the implication that the Trump administration tried to leave, that they wanted Newsom to call out the National Guard. And when he didn't, or didn't do it fast enough, that's when Trump federalized the National Guard and he called it out. The reason I don't buy that is, first of all, there's a very weak factual record. And in a brief like that, you'd expect that the government would have a very strong, detailed factual record with declarations. But it doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, what Trump wanted to do, to the extent that he wanted to do more than perform and create a sensation for the nation and the world, to the extent Trump wanted to do anything, what he really wanted to do was he wanted to have those National Guards men and women protect the ICE raids, because the state was not going to participate in any way, shape, or form in the ICE raids. And if you think about it, if he had wanted Newsom to call out the National Guard, Newsom would have done that, but still not used the National Guard called out by Newsom to help with the ICE raids in any way. So a lot of the factual basis for it is bogus.
I have to stop you there, because this is a critical thing that David Katz is saying right now. And I just want to take a moment and underscore this. The 3D chess of this, and Trump is not a 3D chess player, but there is subterfuge here. Putting in the National Guard as president, you direct the National Guard as to their task. You now control all of those guardsmen and women. Oh, if he just went through the governor, it would be the governor that controlled all of those National Guards men and women. So to whatever degree you want to task them with riding shotgun, quite literally, I suppose, with the ICE raids, you can do that as president now that you control the National Guard. But that leads me to a question. And the question is, what are the legalities and what are the legal limitations on what those National Guards men and women can do?
Well, there's some very interesting precedents. And to give you my Katsadamas prediction, that's one of the things we do on Thursday. To give you my prediction, I don't think that California is going to get much relief in the way that we really ought to, in my opinion, if I were a judge. I don't think they're going to get much relief because the headline is that the Ninth Circuit has stopped any relief. They've stayed the order of the district judge up in the Bay Area, which would have granted relief by noon today. It would have made Newsom in charge of the California National Guard, not Trump. And then, of course, Newsom could have ordered it to not back up the ICE raids, to only protect federal buildings and to protect certain scenes that might be in crisis, of which there are very few, by the way, in LA. People out there in the world should realize that we are not under some kind of siege. This is nothing like the 92 riots after the state court acquittal of Rodney King. That's not what we're having here. We have a very small area that's affected. This one I'm talking about. I want to tell my story real quick, if you don't mind, Mark, which is just that I was down there last Friday, and as fate would have it, I was meeting in this federal building in the early afternoon with FBI agents and with a federal prosecutor.
And just to remind everybody, last Friday is kind of when it all started.
That's when it all started. It was totally calm, and I was right there at all these scenes that you've seen on TV in order to park my car, in order to enter the building. We were going to wrap it up around 1:30, 1:40 that afternoon, just a week ago. The federal agents were all kind of like losing focus. They were all looking at their phones and mobile devices because something was cooking, and it was real clear that something was cooking. And so we ended the meeting a little bit early. And as we ended the meeting, one of the FBI agents, male, he wanted to go, I think, sort of look at what the situation was because he was getting reports that something might be happening. And then one of the female agents said, I'm going to go with you, and said to the female prosecutor, you can wait here if you'd like. We'll be back in a few minutes and we can escort you out of the building. And she was like, what do I need to be escorted out of the building? So this went back and forth for a couple of seconds. And then the female FBI special agent said, after all, you're with a big, strong guy. So I said, well, thank you for noticing. And
did you look over your shoulder and go, wait a minute, she is?
So she and I walked out of the building together, and the direction that we went, nothing was happening. But the direction where the FBI two special agents went to check it out, there was also nothing happening. But within an hour and a half, someone was speaking right out in front of that federal building. And that's kept getting bigger and bigger. People were sending out social media to obviously come to that location. And by 4:30 or 5, that's when they were going beyond the scope of the area just in front of the federal building. That's when supposedly the LAPD should have been called out. Maybe supposedly they should have ordered a curfew that night. But wow, I mean, to say that there's a rebellion or the danger of a rebellion because the police don't respond within hours. If you look at all the other situations, Mark, and there are precedents for this. So the precedents are the civil rights era cases when, into Oklahoma and into, I think it was Alabama and Mississippi, actually Republican presidents, Eisenhower, called out the National Guard. It was over the vigorous opposition of the Southern governor, the segregationist governor of each of those states. And so that's supposed to be the precedent for calling out the National Guard and federalizing it, even though the state governor doesn't want to do it. And just one more point on this, the statute that controls this Title 10 that everyone's talking about is rather confusingly written, which I don't think is going to end up helping California at the end of the day. It says that the order can be made by the president through the governor. By the president seems pretty clear because it doesn't say by the president acting in concert with the governor. It doesn't say by the president and the governor. It doesn't say that. But what on earth does through the governor mean? Now, here's what Trump says. Trump says, we told the adjutant general who would have commanded the National Guard if it had been called out and used by Newsom. And we told him, hey, Newsom's not calling it out in case you didn't notice in the news. We called it out. So we're going to give it the orders. And now it's been done through the adjutant general. That seems a very strained reading, but the Trump administration comes back and says there are 4 or 5 statutes that have to do with the National Guard, and those specify it has to be with the concurrence of the governor. This Title 10 doesn't say with the concurrence of the governor. You can draw a negative inference that therefore Congress didn't mean that this particular one, calling out the National Guard federalized, needs the consent of the governor. So now it's up in the Ninth Circuit, which stopped the district judge's order from going into effect. That panel, for people who analyze this, and I think we can't just sit here and say we have a nation only of laws and not of men and women. We have a nation of laws run by men and women on the bench. 2 of the judges on the Ninth Circuit are Trump appointees. 1 is from Biden, and they have now delayed a hearing until Tuesday coming up. And in the interim, there is no relief at all, no change of the status quo. Trump can do what he wants for the moment, at least according to the Ninth Circuit stay. And that includes that supposedly there's a couple of hundred Army troops who are going to hit the streets of LA, if not right now, within hours.
So I want to ask about what National Guard troops or other military, Marines are there in LA, as you just mentioned, the Army. I want to just quickly establish what they can do. They can ride along, as I was saying, on these ICE raids to sort of create a greater profile of strength. And
can I stop you 1 second?
Yeah, please.
They can protect federal buildings. That's the one that's not controversial. They can protect federal buildings. Because this meeting got aborted or it's shortened, I had to go. I said, well, I still want to have the meeting. So I went to the FBI in Westwood. Now, Westwood is on the west side.
It's another federal building, exactly. Okay.
It's the FBI's huge building, 17 stories high. There's a big campus. By the time I went out there on Wednesday, just 2 days ago, there were like National Guardsmen. There were Humvees. It was very hard. It took an hour to get access to the place, but there was nothing going on, Mark. It was a total waste of time, waste of our money to pay for this deployment. It was,
and these guys are bored stiff. I've seen them. They're just standing around. They were like, "What the hell are we doing here?" But beyond the, I don't mean to at all interrupt, but I just want to say now you've established that it's protecting the buildings. What I'm asking is beyond that. That's a federal thing going on. This is what I want to get to. I was been dying to talk to you about this all week. ICE is a federal agency. All right, so they are doing federal work, and is then the task of the National Guard or Army under federal control now from Trump, are they able then to legally go alongside this federal effort to seek out those who are in the on the immigration list, who are then going to be scooped up, arrested, possibly deported? Can they accompany those ICE agents legally on their tasks?
So legally, the Guardsmen and women and the Army call-ups can protect federal buildings, which is a nothing burger. They're not needed for that. This is where the rubber hits the road. What can they do? Now, there's a statute called, or principle called Posse Comitatus, which establishes and has for a couple of hundred years that the military cannot do law enforcement functions. The military cannot, they're to attack other people and protect us from other people. They're not, that's what they do in coups. That's what they do in dictatorships. What Trump is dreaming of, where they attack the American people, not defend the American people. So they cannot do law enforcement or attack the American people. So what they're asking to do is that they can protect these ICE raids. So ICE wants to go into an area, let's say in the fashion district, or they want to go to the car wash. By the way, you can't get a car wash in this town at the moment.
You can't get a car wash. You can't get an orange at a bag of oranges at the street corner. You can't. It's crazy.
Pretty soon we won't be able to have the bus boys. We won't have the nannies. People are not going into work. They're not going to the graduation ceremonies of their kids. This is a true human disaster.
We can smile about the trivial part of it, but the reality is, and I made this comment just a few minutes ago, you probably heard, David, is it's a body blow to the California economy, to the California lifestyle and culture. I mean, these people are a big part of the culture here, and they're being treated as invading outlaws. It's outrageous. And by the way, by extension, it's a body blow to the American economy because, as you know, California is such a robust economy relative to the rest of America. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
So just to finish with this is assuming that the Ninth Circuit and the U.S. Supreme Court don't grant any relief to California, don't actually grant anything substantive ultimately to Governor Newsom's motion. What will happen is that, so ICE will go in there, and the Army or the National Guard will stand by and put up a perimeter.
Okay.
Now, of course, that makes it much easier for ICE to perform the law enforcement function that it has when the Army and the National Guard are protecting this perimeter. It will, as a practical matter, make it very difficult to disrupt it, to call names, to do anything. And then, of course, you have the situation. It looks like they're going to have some regulations. Again, if this stands, if they have any sense, they seem like unsensible people. But if they have any sense, they'll make sure that the guards person, the Army person, is right next to the ICE person. Because otherwise, you have the situation where the Army's over here, and the whole thing is a chaos. And then there's an attack on the Army, or a brick or something gets thrown toward the Army guys. Now, what do? I don't think we're going to have Kent State. Hopefully, they're going to be issued rubber bullets. But that's something that's really fraught. But the other thing, too, is just
again, for younger boys and girls, Kent State was a situation in which National Guard troops went in. It was a Vietnam War protest. 4 students who were protesting ended up dead. And I made this point the other day. These are human beings. You throw bottles at them, you throw rocks at them, you shout invectives of all sorts at them. You know, it only takes one guy who's just lost his S and he fires on the crowd. That's exactly what happened at Kent State. Of course, they should have never been in there with live ammunition. As you just heard David say, they're not going to have live ammunition in this instance that you've just articulated. But that was the Kent State situation. Go ahead.
For younger people, if you know the song that has the verse, 4 dead in Ohio, 4 dead in Ohio is a reference to the National Guard that shot live rounds and killed 4 students at Kent State in Ohio. Anyway, so it looks like that's what's going to happen. Regarding, someone wrote in, and I think it's a good question, how long does this take to get to SCOTUS? I think it does get to SCOTUS. By the way, I commend Governor Newsom and the others who brought this lawsuit. I think there was no choice but to bring this lawsuit. I think they brought it in the right place. I think it made sense in San Francisco. That's also where their offices are. So they had venue to state offices are headquartered in the San Francisco Bay Area. So they brought it there. They ended up, these were all random assignments. They randomly got a very good judge for this issue from certainly the plaintiff's point of view. He's the brother of the retired U.S. Supreme Court Justice Breyer. His name is also Breyer. Very experienced judge there. And I think he made a very sensible ruling. The ruling that was stayed and that was really celebrated late yesterday afternoon and into the evening before the stay of his order was granted by this Ninth Circuit panel was that, yes, he did have jurisdiction over this, that these were flimsy reasons, and he had a right as a judge to weigh Trump's reasons and to say that there was the danger of rebellion. No, this was not a rebellion, and this was not danger that was more than the LAPD and the local officials could handle. And there'd been such a short time frame. It was done so hastily, and it violated what's called the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which is the right of the governor and the state to perform those functions, not specifically delegated to the federal government. And these were such functions. Anyway, I think what the Ninth Circuit panel is going to do, 2 Trump appointees, 1 Biden appointee, one of them is very hard right, clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas. I'm not making this up. Every time we talk about it, I'm telling you that someone's a longtime Federalist Society member, a former law clerk to Justice Clarence Thomas. And
I come from regular stock.
Yeah, that's
and they're on this case that we're talking about. This case could go en banc to the entire Ninth Circuit. That also takes time. So given the time that it's going to take to possibly dissolve this stay and the probability of it going up to the Supreme Court, my Katsadamas is that this thing will become largely moot before there's ever a decision. And Trump and the administration may decide to, having made this performative point here, they may decide to have this fight somewhere with a much better record, because they have a very bad record. They really do. I know they had an endless loop on Fox. You know, you say I've been on Fox. I'm always the contrarian on Fox. I'm always the 1 against 3, arguing what I consider sensible positions. And if they'll let me articulate them, I'm going to go on Fox and articulate them. But I don't think I've been the majority view on any of those shows, not their majority. So anyway, I think I think what's going to happen is that this is, I think, going to fizzle out. Also, the leaders here have been very wise, Mark, to say, tone it down. Don't give them provocation. This is all they want. And of course, in all of these kinds of things, and we saw it in Portland, we saw it in some of the George Floyd protests, there's a group, they seem to be anarchists. They seem to come out at night. They're there to make trouble. and they are not emblematic or symbolic of any of. They're certainly not. They're not symbolizing the immigrant groups. Now, can I mention one more thing, which is an endless loop on Fox 2, is the presence of Mexican flags. Now, people are proud to be from Mexico. People are proud to be from Israel. On St. Patrick's Day, they're proud to be from Ireland. So in some sense, it's very unfair to say that it inflames people and you should avoid waving your Mexican flag. You're proud of being Mexican. So can't the Irish wave the Ireland flag on St. Patrick's Day? Can't people wave the Israeli flag because they're proud to be Jewish and from Israel? But, it sure would be nice if they didn't wave these Mexican flags around, because it's just bait. Everything that people are doing, analyze it from Trump's point of view and the point of view of a would-be dictator and fascist, okay? Don't do things, don't feed that beast. Whether it's fair or unfair, try not to feed that beast.
I've said the same thing repeatedly. Early on, I said, here's a pro tip. Stow the Mexican flags until Latino Pride Day or whatever it is. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities to fly the Mexican flag or the Honduran flag or whatever it might be. It's a game of images, and the images extend for the most part outside of California. So the audience is the world, and you have to think in those terms. Think in terms of images, and the audience is the world. And they want those images of fire, of Waymo vehicles in that are full of and being completely engulfed in flame, and the Mexican flag is in the foreground. It is a bad look.
Mark, can you keep that photo? Can your producers keep that photo up there? So this is Olvera Street, okay? That's where people came from Mexico and established La Ciudad de Los Angeles, the city of the angels. Down there, this is Olvera Street. This is a Zocalo. People who know Mexican cities, they all have a Zocalo. This is ours in Los Angeles. This back behind it is the federal building, and off to the left is a high-rise federal building called Roybal, named for a congressman or a congresswoman. And in the bottom of this tall building, that's where the National Guard is. So when you see those pictures, and then right where the green trees are in the middle toward the left, if you go right behind where the green trees are, you go down to the 101 freeway. And, the Democrats should be the party of don't block the freeways. No matter how passionately you care about something, whether it's gay rights, whether it's how outrageous these ICE raids are, whether it's, Armenian Holocaust Day, don't block the freeways, because again, you're just gonna lose. You're gonna lose everybody who's on your side, who agrees with you, if you block the freeways. And we had this in the Bay Area where they blocked the Golden Gate Bridge. There's people on those freeways, on those bridges, who need to get to a medical appointment. They're having a medical distress situation. It is utterly selfish and not helping anyone's cause to block freeways and bridges.
That's, again, something that I have been saying since the beginning. You lose me. I'm your biggest ally, but you block the freeway, I'm done with you. All of you. That's what happens. I used to say this on KGO. Don't block the Golden Gate Bridge. What is it? Native Americans, I love you. I'm one of your biggest fans. Your causes are important, but you've lost me. You turned my commute into a 4.5-hour hellscape. Anyway, that's the situation, and it is about images, and David is right. Now I want to take you, do I have 5 more minutes with David, or what's your situation, pal? What is your story? Are you okay for 5 more
great.
minutes?
I know you have a great lineup.
We have a very packed lineup on Fridays, but I really want to get to the senator who was thrown to the ground, and I have the video, and I want you to see it. Before I do, it's Luis with a $9.99. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. He says, concerned about how the ICE capades are being covered here in Los Angeles. KFI Morning Show explicitly selling that Padilla staged yesterday's events and wanted to be tossed on the floor and handcuffed. And they're pitching that as propaganda. Well, that's the most ridiculous thing. I'll be on KFI radio on Sunday, and I'll address that on the air, but I'll just address it here quickly. And again, when you say KFI radio, that's many different hosts, many different voices. I don't know who said that, but I'm sure Padilla wanted a high-profile moment with Kristi Noem. You're going to see it. We're going to show it to you in a second. But he didn't want to be thrown to the ground. I mean, he wanted a moment where she had to answer a question while she was peacocking about Department of Homeland Security and how they are securing Los Angeles, and they're finally restoring the city to what it should be. Roll that tape if you would. This is Kristi Noem, and this is how it all started. And you'll hear now in context the Padilla interruption and how he identifies himself as a U.S. Senator. Go ahead.
Department of Homeland Security and the officers and the agencies and the departments and the military people that are working on this operation will continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country.
Stop right here. I'm so sorry. I just want to interject one thing, and then you can just back up a few seconds so we can get it again in context. But the idea that they're here to liberate this city from the socialist mayor, and they say the quiet part out loud, the political jihad they're on. This is a mayor who was duly elected. I wasn't even a fan of the mayor. Okay. So, that's another conversation. But Gavin Newsom was duly elected. Mayor Bass was duly elected. Kristi Noem was not duly elected.
And they were elected by big margins, Mark. This wasn't like Trump when he lost the popular vote and then Trump won by 1% nationwide. They're popular and they won by big votes. And Gavin Newsom in particular is very popular in this state.
And most of the state, myself included, Katz as well, I'm sure, we're not Marxist, socialist, whatever. I mean, this isn't some Castro-esque state that we need you to, jump in and civilize us.
I'm a working lawyer. I'm a working lawyer who worked for the Reagan administration. Come on.
All right, go back, Albert. Give it to me again, and I won't interrupt.
The city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles. I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted,
and now, Albert,
how their families have been
what happened to that U.S. Senator. Show me the video from another angle. You'll see. He identifies himself as a U.S. Senator. She said later, we didn't know he was a U.S. Senator. Why didn't he identify himself? The minute he identified himself as a U.S. Senator, we took the cuffs off. Yeah. After we'd shoved his face into the carpet to make a point. But he actually had identified himself as a U.S. Senator initially. That was one of the first things he did. So go ahead, Albert. Run that, please. You have it, pal. I see it in the gate, right? No?
No, I only have this one. We have a secondary video. I thought we skipped on that, but I could pull that up as well.
Okay. It should be embedded in that in the piece that Kim put in there. This is a live show that we do. Then we'll drop this video separately. And by the way, when we drop the video separately, we cut out stuff like this. We're looking for Oh, this is Padilla reacting to it.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Never put your hand on me.
This is
Good afternoon,
I'll tell you. Stop for a second, Albert, if you would, please. And then I got to get back to Katz. But I thought my understanding was we're going to see this, him being thrown down, and then we're going to go to the CNN where he speaks on CNN. Go ahead.
This is just a photo embedded in the video.
I see. Okay.
This is not a video.
Kim, I'll ask you. Didn't you have? I thought you had a piece of video that you wanted us to see where he's being thrown down. You don't have that, so let's get to CNN. There's a CNN comment that he makes, and then I want to get to Katz on the legality of all of this.
When you look at these images and your staff was there, they were able to record what happened in the room, and then when they took you in the hall outside and they put you on the ground and they handcuffed you, and everybody's watching it, and people are trying to understand what happened. It's unsettling. I mean, can I just show again the moment that you were detained, Senator? Because you're
there it is. We have it now. There it is.
Hands behind your back. They force you to the ground. They handcuff you, right? And this is after in the room you'd asked a question. Now, when she was talking, it did sound like you were talking over her. You heard the governor say you were trying to create a spectacle. Tell me exactly what happened. You're just sitting in the room, and then what? Tell me how you see it.
So here's what happened. So I'm in the conference room, a couple doors down, waiting this briefing with representatives of Northern Command. We learned almost on the spot that there's this press conference going on down the hall. Now my briefing is delayed because of the folks in that press conference. From the moment I entered the building, I'm being escorted by a member of the National Guard and an FBI agent. I asked, well, since we're waiting, can we go listen into the press conference? They escort me over to the press conference. They opened the door for me. I'm standing in the back behind the reporters, behind the cameras, just listening in. And at one point, the rhetoric just got to be too much. Not the first time, but the second time the secretary takes it upon herself to say that the Trump administration wants to liberate the people of Los Angeles from the governor and the mayor. It was just too much. And so, yes, I said who I was. I began to ask a question, and it was maybe half a second later before there was multiple agents on me. They shoved me outside. I was trying to both get my question out and not lose my balance. You know, one is telling me, get down on my knees, and the other one's pushing me in a different direction. There was no resistance. To the contrary, I kept asking, why am I being detained? Get down on your knees turns into flat on the floor. I'm trying, but I'm being pushed and pulled in different directions. I'm finally down on the floor. They handcuff me multiple times. Why am I being detained? No response, no response, no response. Finally, minutes later, I guess somebody around the secretary realizes this is the United States Senator. And they come running down the hall and finally say, let him go. You know, again, the point is, if it can happen to me in that setting, imagine what they're doing to people all around the country. And Aaron, let me also,
you know, that's often said, David. Thank you so much, Albert. I'm glad we got that. You know, if it's happening to me, a U.S. senator, well, imagine what they're doing. But it is true that there is a deliberate brutality going on that is almost like a nightclub bouncer crap. You know what I mean? Where you don't just escort somebody out. You have to shove them down, zip tie them. I mean, where there's no real threat that would necessitate that. Speak to the legality of of taking the senator out. I mean, I don't know if anything illegal happened. They always, you know, the stories differ. What was your take on the incident?
Well, I think especially having videotape and with him announcing at the beginning that he was a U.S. senator, you know, we have a new district attorney here, Nathan Hochman, and I think this should be investigated as a crime. The fact that you're a federal agent somewhere doesn't mean that you can run around and commit state crimes. You know, we had this, and it may be that this prosecution has to happen in federal court, but it can be brought by a state prosecutor. You remember in Georgia, we had this where all of those people who were indicted down there along with Trump in Georgia, they asked that their case, although it was being brought by a state prosecutor, that they were doing their federal duty. And therefore, not that the case should be dismissed, but that the case should be prosecuted in federal court. So I would call upon Nathan Hochman to investigate this case. He's the district attorney here. I think that a crime was committed. And don't wait for the feds to do it, because you saw what happened with that police officer who was actually found guilty by a jury of throwing a black woman who was doing nothing more than giving attitude and videotaping the situation. She was found guilty by a jury, and then this new U.S. attorney here, who seems to be like nothing better than to get into a shouting match with the governor. I've seen every U.S. attorney since 1983 here in Los Angeles. None of them have been fighting with the governors, you know, making snippets with the government, enforce the federal law. But I can't count on him to do that after he was so permissive and gave that person a mere misdemeanor and didn't want them to do jail time. So I think this was a violation of the law. I think this should be investigated by the district attorney. I think it should be prosecuted by the district attorney. There's evidence of the people who, I mean, they assaulted him. They pushed him. It's, thank God, apparently he wasn't permanently injured. But, you know, talk about a lack of senatorial courtesy, a lack of senatorial caring about people. You say cruelty, and like you imagine the cruelty against the farm workers everywhere and the arrestees everywhere by ICE, the detainees by, if they did that to a senator who announced at the beginning that he was a senator. So Mark, this is a complete outrage and awful. And, you know, I'm always worried about the reaction, Mark, because after these people act, like you say, so much like nightclub bouncers, it is so tempting when the Democrats get back into power, as they will, that they will overreact. I don't want to see ICE abolished. I think some of the things that ICE does is good. But how on earth could you expect the Democrats, when they're back in power, to not incredibly sharply curtail both the Secret Service, which apparently these were Secret Service guys who violated the law in this situation. They don't have the right to overreact. You know, they put out this story, Mark, first that he didn't announce he was a senator, which he did. And then they said that he was approaching and they had to protect their protectee. He wasn't approaching. Mark, you can see from the video, he wasn't anywhere near her. He didn't reach in his pocket like they could think, oh, maybe he was grabbing a weapon. All he did was speak up. And so these thugs, she's a thug. I mean, this is beyond belief. You know, Bass was a Congress member with her and said, this is not the person I knew that I was in Congress with. Somehow she's decided her future, this Kristi Noem, is to be a thug. And she's the head of the DHS. It's really scary.
You said it exactly, using the word I was going to use. I was going to say these are Secret Service thugs. I know that service to this country is laudable, and service to this country is something to be honored. And so I honor all the men and women who serve the country in all these different ways. Secret Service, National Guard, the military. You know how I feel about all of you. I'm actually so impressed by the professionalism of so many. But there are also those in all of those places and departments that I mentioned that are aggro people who are looking to assert their physical dominance over others. It's a power trip, and they can do it, and they feel they are protected in doing it by the badge, by the shield. And I think you see it in incidents like this. So the Secret Service, as you know, they've been dining out on protecting the president for so long. The Secret Service is a multifaceted organization. David Katz can tell you all the things they do, from, you know, sniffing out counterfeiting to looking at all kinds of other business related sort of white collar crimes that Secret Service is involved in. So protecting public officials is just one sliver. And clearly those who are involved in that become overzealous and aggressive. And this was exceedingly aggressive and overzealous to the point that, as you say, it's legally actionable. And this is to the last point. I'm seeing in the chat, we are seeing an attempt for regime change when Kristi Noem says we are here to liberate Los Angeles from the Marxists, from the socialists, whatever, from a mayor and governor who are Marxists and socialists, whatever the rhetoric around that is specifically. That is a kind of regime change that's associated with an occupation that she has indicated is open-ended. They are going to remain here. Now, they would say, no, we mean the ICE operations are going to continue. And so our federalized National Guard and the military will remain to help expedite those. But what you're really seeing, and the chat is commenting on it, that's why I wanted to pass it on to you, is perhaps the beginning, the germination of what will be an effort to change leadership, political leadership in a lot of these cities and states that are blue?
Well, I think, you know, what I take away from this, and I'm not a political analyst, but I think that, you know, what ICE is doing here, the people who can't go to their graduations, the people who are getting pulled out, they're just hardworking people. If they did anything wrong, it was okay. They crossed the border without documents. I mean, so many of our ancestors crossed the border without documents because they didn't need documents. Now, all these document requirements, first of all, we need these people in the labor market. Everybody knows it. These Republican towns that they had a day without a Mexican, and they brought the economy to a complete halt in these right-wing suburban communities that said, please don't deport anybody. Now Trump has said, oh, no, don't deport any of the agricultural workers. Don't mess with the agricultural workers. What a climb down by Trump. And of course, he wants to protect the hotel industry because that's his bread and butter. I believe that he's well known. I think it's been documented that they've hired all of those people who don't have proper papers and paid them less wages, of course, than it would if it were American citizens or people with green cards. I think that that's bolstered by the facts as to Trump. So number one, I think that California will not vote for a Republican for 100 years after this. The memory of this, the hatred and outrage that this has caused, going after these people who are doing nothing but keeping our economy going, and then the personal tragedies that they've had one after the other. The second thing is, I think it's greatly enhanced Gavin Newsom. I mean, right or wrong, he's come to the fore. I think he's handled this exactly right. And I think Trump has totally mismanaged it. If they're trying to destroy his political career, they've done nothing, I think, but really enhance his political career. And the other thing I do worry about is the overreaction when this is all over, because we are a nation of immigrants and we're also a nation of laws, as they say. And that's been used as a wedge against the Democrats, but we are a nation of laws. What happened with Biden, in my opinion, for a couple of years, not the last year, was that there was not a concern about there were too many people coming into the country, and people were looking for the government to stop. It was too many people. It was double the people that came under Obama. Biden should have said, I got to be doing something wrong if twice as many people are coming into the country as they did under Obama. And there was a feeling, I think, among the populace, two things. I think, number one, that they weren't doing enough, Mark, to curtail it. And when you're in government, don't explain all the details to the people. Do something about it. And the numbers were staggering that they weren't doing anything about it. And then, the last year when Biden saw the election was coming up, he did do something about it. So it looked like he was feckless. It looked like there was something he could have done. And that went to Harris, too, because she was vice president. And I don't want us to swing back all the other way when the Democrats get back into power. And the other thing was that some of the protests in Portland and the post of George Floyd, they went too far. And that has given ammunition to this crowd, because they said, oh, well, January 6th was just, it went out of hand, but then so did Portland go out of hand. So did some of the George Floyd protests. My office is here in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills was a disaster. That has not happened this time, but things went too far. And I used to talk about this with Pat Thurston, and I would get kind of a groan like, here's Katz. I guess he's been on Fox TV as a contrarian too long. But I did think that those went too far. And, now Trump is going way too far the other way, and we'll get power back. And when we do, I just hope that we're more the party of moderation and common sense than maybe we were under some of the things in the Biden era.
Well, just because you mentioned it, I've been in LA news for 35 years. I was here for the Rodney King riots.
Me too.
During those, I know you clearly, I think you outrank me in terms of how long you've been in LA. But anyway, I mention it because you felt as though you wanted a National Guard presence during that.
We had to have it.
Yeah, it was scary. Similarly, the George Floyd thing had aspects of that. The looting that you described, I thought that was way out of control. I thought it was unconscionable. And I thought this, to be fair, I thought this was out of control in the agitators being able to gain so much of an upper hand and to do the kind of destruction that they did on the Waymo vehicles, on the CHP vehicles, on the news vans, and on the looting. I mean, they looted an Apple store, they looted a bunch of other businesses. Hey, I want downtown Los Angeles to be a safe place where businesses can open and know that they'll be secure, that they'll be protected by the cops. I pay money for those cops to be able to protect those businesses. I want this city to flourish. I want people to feel safe. I don't want homeless people on the street. Again, like all of us, I want a safe, secure town. But the idea somehow that you would, as you suggest, oversteer the way they have, brought in the National Guard, brought in the military in this insane way that is just clearly performative, and obviously serves another master, which is to, again, ride along on these ICE raids just to increase the profile. It just has nothing to do with the initial part, which is the unrest that could have been handled. I think it should have been handled in a tougher way. But as you say, the cops are there in an hour. So right. It's then what they do after they get there.
And Mark, I couldn't agree with you more, but Trump set that up too. He's so Machiavellian. He set that up too. Why did the ICE raids have to be on Friday? Because it would lead into a weekend when you could predict, right, that the LAPD and the locals wouldn't be able to respond that fast. We're going into a weekend. Everyone knows you make news, right, when people are starting out their weekend. He could have done that on Monday, right? He could have done that on Monday. That would have given the LAPD, the sheriffs, a little more time to, it wouldn't have been in the weekend. Because the worst that happened was on Saturday, and I think going into Sunday. But I think Saturday was about the worst. The weekend was, and Trump's orchestrated it so it would happen over the weekend. No, this was terrible. It was totally performative. It was totally provocative. I agree with all that, but I don't think that the courts are going to help us that much. I do think that Trump, though, is going to tamp it down a little bit. He's going to withdraw some of those people. That's the thing that I think is hard to predict, Mark. If he's going to do like an ICE raid Monday and one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday, he may. It depends how the polls go. It may. The federal courts are not stopping him. The Ninth Circuit wouldn't, and granted that stay. So he's not stopped from doing that. And it may be that he figures, this is my big chance. No court is stopping me. Some court may very well stop me. Public opinion may stop me. So this is my time. And of course, the people who are scared of ICE, the whole community, Hispanic community, immigrant community, is so worried about this. We really are going to have supply chain problems. We're really going to have people are not going to be going into work. Why would you? I mean, except they need a paycheck. But why would you with this fear of that they may hit your place? And of course, it leaves your kids home alone without a mommy or daddy. I mean, this is just so awful what's happening. And nobody voted for this. They were supposed to be going after the criminals with criminal records. They're supposed to be going after the felons. There's ways to do that. But you got to be tough. A lot of these people are cowards with badges. They just want the low-hanging fruit. Some law-abiding people at some factory aren't going to make it.
Well, that's what Stephen Miller said. I want 3,000 a day. Go anywhere. Go to Home Depot. He mentioned all of these places. Go to Lowe's.
Go to the gangs. Go to the gangs. They'll find out. We used to do this with the DEA, and some of those guys had so much guts you can't believe it. And some of those DEA guys figured, I'm taking the low-hanging fruit. People who aren't dangerous. Going home to my wife and kids tonight. You want to be heroes? Go be heroes. Take on those gangs. That's for real. Take on the gangs. Prosecute them. Give them deportation hearings. Get them out of the country. But it's a lot easier to go after the low-hanging fruit. So I am so unimpressed with this bunch. And the very last thing I want to say, Mark, if I just have a second here, is that I've worked with the federal agents my whole life. You want to talk to someone who has admiration for them. I've worked the weekends with them. I've gotten restitution to victims where we had no funds. We had to sit there, work the weekend, write the checks ourselves. I've worked with the Secret Service. All these agencies that we talked about, I've seen the finest, examples of them. One thing I have noticed, and I would just commend this to Senator Padilla, although a senator shouldn't have to act this way, but I always do think as a federal criminal defense attorney, what can go wrong? I'm the guy who would have screamed at the top of my lungs, I'm a U.S. senator. I would have had my ID right out. There's no reason a senator ought to act like that, okay? A senator should be able to act like a senator, which is not being defensive like that. But when you're a federal criminal defense attorney and you're always worried that something's going to go wrong, when I'm around the agents, I like to always have a witness. I like to not have it be some federal agent's word against mine. You can be the most esteemed lawyer in the world, but you don't want some federal agent to say that you said something that you didn't say. That's one of the reasons we have the Miranda warnings, right? You don't want to have an unrecorded encounter, whether you're a criminal defendant or whether you're a criminal defense lawyer.
This was pretty well documented, this encounter, though.
Yeah, but we're a lot more wary, Mark. We're a lot more wary. We're always thinking, what could go wrong in this situation?
But just to review, because we talked about it a few minutes ago, I mean, maybe people are just joining. You feel as though this is legally actionable, what happened to Padilla, and people could not only lose their job, but you could actually be, fined or worse.
I mean, even if he weren't a U.S. senator, why on earth did they treat him like that?
Thank you. That's the point. Yeah.
Why do they maybe take him out of the room? By the way, he said that he went there, if I heard the interview right, with 2 federal government agents on his side. Where the hell were they?
Yeah.
The ones who were on his side, where the hell were they? Although they might have seen that, there's a greater force, all those Secret Service agents coming at him. But they're supposed to be protecting the senator, aren't they?
Can you imagine, though, if federal protective agents are getting into it with other federal protective agents? I mean, the thing could have turned into an even bigger melee. But David, I love that we visited today. I really appreciate that you indulged us by joining us. I know your regular day is Thursdays. And again, Thursdays with Katz, one of our most popular segments. And I look forward to next Thursday. It sadly is a situation that is going to be begging for some legal analysis. We have the military birthday of Trump this day tomorrow. And we have protests nationwide, the No Kings protests in cities and communities nationwide as well. So there may be some more legal shoe pinching along the way there. So
Mark,
I want to check in on you again.
Mark, there may be millions of people protesting, and they should all do it peacefully. But it's so outrageous what's happening. I'm not really a very partisan person. I've represented Republicans, Democrats. I'm an equal opportunity criminal defense attorney. And I always say I'm fighting the government. Whether Sanders wins or Trump wins, I'm fighting the government. But it really is outrageous what's happening. I mean, really, take it from someone who's been around forever and seen them come and seen them go. This crew really is outrageous for our civil liberties and our rights.
Yeah, these are dark times, and you can't overstate it. Thanks a lot. David Katz.
Have a great weekend.
You too, pal. Thank you very much.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We are in a situation where we are packing a lot into a short time. Nothing wrong with that. I appreciate, in fact, everything's right with that. Oh, the folly with a super sticker for $20. Wow, that's great. This is a show that's crowdfunded. We're kind of like a
Big shout out.
PBS NPR model. So we give you the show for free across the iHeartRadio network, across Spotify, across Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are heard as an audio podcast. We come to you. And then on YouTube as a video podcast. So I appreciate the fact, again, as a free broadcast, in a sense, that you support it because it's listener supported completely. Listener and viewer supported. Spencer Jaffe, I might have bed bugs.
Oh, no.
That's really bad. Bed bugs are not a good thing. Get rid of the bed, get rid of the whole thing. Vivian El Shawa with a $10 super sticker. Thank you. And a big shout out to you and all of our regular monthly subscribers and supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Candace Worthman with a $10 super sticker. Big shout out to you. Trump has gone too far, says Spencer Jaffe. You think? How fast until this hits SCOTUS? We answered that question. Concerned about ICE capades? Read that, and I commented on it. In the moment with Paul Sisler, the second, a $20 super chat. Our country is on the cusp of full dictatorship, he says, or the people rising to defend our democracy. California is currently the testing grounds. Our country is on the cusp of full dictatorship or the people rising to defend our democracy. California is currently the testing grounds. I could make a pretty good argument for why in the moment with Paul Sisler, the second, is correct. I mean, there is a real assault on the government and democracy, as I mentioned, and democratically elected leaders in California who are in control. I mentioned it before. Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, the legislature of California. These are duly elected officials. You may not like it, maybe too liberal for you. Okay. And I've been critical of Newsom. I've been critical of Bass. I've told you, I'm no fans of a lot of the stuff that they've done or haven't done. But you can't come in here heavy-handed with the feds and say, I'm going to civilize all of you. I'm going to get rid of these Marxist socialists. Please. Nobody voted for Marxism and socialism in California. We're a far cry. I mean, the criticism about Newsom aren't like Marxist socialist. Are you kidding? It's that he's in bed with the healthcare industry, with the power industry. That it's just good old-fashioned political corruption that you'll find everywhere. Actually, it looks quaint compared to what you're seeing in Washington right now, with the self-enrichment, with the meme coin, with the Qatari jet. I mean, it just the idea that you're, just a political thing where you're paying off a politician for legislation that you want, that almost seems like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Luis says, no Mexican flags in lands that used to be Mexico, but I'm sure the stars and bars are being dusted off to celebrate the return of the Confederate generals. Yeah, and you know what? This is a great point, and it's a sad point that we have to say no Mexican flags because it's a bad look. Because, of course, this used to be Mexico. Luis is absolutely right. Why do you think it's Los Angeles? Why do you think these streets in Los Angeles have all of these Hispanic names? Because it used to be Mexico. That's why. So Luis is 100% right. And yet we have to say to our Mexican brothers and sisters, if I can use the term, guys, we're playing for the whole world right now. We're playing, these images are going everywhere. So the images of burning cars and destruction, they're playing off against the Mexican flag, and that's bad for the cause. But you're right. It's kind of pathetic, isn't it? Marge, thank you for the $10 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, indeed. Let's do some Florida as I told you I'm going to talk Israel and Iran, among other things, with Michael Shure in just a few minutes. I'd like to, as a palate cleanser, Albert.
I think that top story, if you see it there.
No, hang on a second. I've got to get to the... They do this to me all the time. I don't know.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
I got to get to...
Mr. Shure is here.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
We'll get to Michael in just a second. I have to do Florida.
Maybe we should bring him in for Florida because he really does enjoy it.
Does he? Sometimes he says stuff it's not really true. I don't know. I'll give him the option.
Okay.
Are you in for Florida, or what's your situation, pal?
I like you, Mark Thompson.
Again, I don't know if that's actually true.
What?
Exactly. That's why I said it as the test.
I
would love to be part of Friday Fabulous Florida.
All right.
They are kissing my ass.
All right. Well, let's.
And by the way, Florida, with Florida in the Stanley Cup final, it even becomes more appropriate.
Oh my God.
The only reason I'm here is because you are a friend.
Yes. All right. Let's do it. This is a palate cleanser, everyone, and then we'll get back to some serious stuff. It's a Friday, and we carried this over from our show on the radio, and we do it here. It's a quick segment. We call it Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
I want to shout out to Tammy. I think it's Tammy, isn't it, Albert, who sends us a lot of Florida stuff now. She's kind of become an unofficial Florida correspondent. But we lead with a man who tries to pay for sex at a Florida club. He calls 911 to complain about not getting the services that he was trying to arrange.
What?
Wow.
I thought you were introing me, and so I'm glad.
Stop it.
This is Clearwater, Florida, the home of Scientology, everybody. Oh, are there any Scientologists in the crowd? Very good. A man facing charges after Pinellas County deputies say that he called 911 claiming security at a club, quote, took $300 from him, money that he used in an attempt to pay an employee for sex. Apparently, Sultan Al-Nofai, who's 21, called 911 from the Oz Gentlemen's Club near Clearwater. Oh, there you go. It was shortly after midnight. Just happened a couple days ago. Anelfi said to the 911 operator, come take this guy to jail. Paid a worker for sex, didn't get his services, and they took his money. Staff at the club said that he'd asked for a private room along with sex from a staff member. I didn't realize you could just demand that at these places. He appeared intoxicated. Wow.
What?
Here's a surprise.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
I just told you, you don't need to bet your lunch. He smelled of alcohol as they arrested him on a charge of misuse of the wireless 911 system. That's an odd. It's funny that after that story, that's the charge, you know.
Oh,
but apparently it is.
The Sultan doesn't get his sex.
Yeah. It's tough when that happens. You know, I'm Albert, I don't see this is not opening for me. The Peaches the Flamingo found in Mexico. This is a great story. Can you hang on a second? I'll
Poor
I'll get it for you.
Peaches.
Peaches. You'll really like this story, Michael Shure. I know you both love flamingos and you love peaches.
Well, Peaches
and this is a flamingo named Peaches.
Peaches was a flamingo that got caught in a hurricane.
Hmm.
And they couldn't find Peaches for a while, and it appears that now Peaches has been relocated.
That's terrific. You see, Peaches, the famed Hurricane Idalia flamingo, turns up in Mexico after disappearing from the Bay Area. That's the Tampa Bay area. Strong winds blew a flock of flamingos up to Tampa Bay in 2023. Peaches went missing, but now Peaches found in Mexico.
Yep.
Running a timeshare there, apparently. And never been doing better. The flamingo is a male named Peaches and rescued by some anglers that were out in a boat. What's that?
Look at that.
Peaches out in the deep water, dude.
They
That
said
is
it was
scary.
like finding a needle in a haystack, that they banded Peaches when Peaches was in Florida. You can see the tracker on the knee, the
Oh, yeah.
band. And so that's how they know it's the same bird that was found in Mexico. But that finding another one of these birds with the trackers is incredibly difficult. And it's just a fluke that they managed to spot this flamingo again, and that he happened to be in the Yucatan.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Wow. And finally, Michael,
Any word out of Herb, or we've just found Peaches?
just Peaches. No, Herb is not. Yeah,
Herb
very
remains
well done.
unaccounted for. Yes.
A large alligator exhibiting aggressive behavior, prompting officials to temporarily close to paddlers one of Central Florida's most popular springs. Juniper Springs, everyone. Don't get too excited. You can't paddle there now. It's in the Ocala National Forest, about 300 miles north of Miami. And a 13 to 14-foot large alligator actively pursuing paddlers there.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It
Don't
is
go in the water.
Not
time
a
of year.
party.
No.
To help prevent human interaction and disruption, the forest supervisor and Ocala district ranger decided to give this alligator his space for the time being.
You can't go give him his space.
That's right.
He needs alone time.
Seems like he kind of took his space,
Yeah.
as opposed to any kind of real negotiation going on. Located about 30 minutes from Ocala, Juniper Springs is a historic site known for its clear spring waters, its lush subtropical forest, and hundreds of bubbling vents and creeks. Built in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps, it attracts thousands of visitors each year, and apparently a 14-foot gator as well. I don't need to tell you, what season is it in Florida, Kim?
It's mating season, and the gators are hungry, Mark.
Right now
exactly
it's mating
right.
season, and they're hungry.
Yeah.
April through June. And then the nesting season begins for the rest of the summer.
Mhm.
So be careful. I don't need to tell you. It gets tricky down there.
So, like the first guy who thought it was mating season, the gator.
Yes, you're right. The first guy was it was mating season. He wanted to pay to mate.
Right.
Here, yeah, that option is not really open. So it's a little more of an
No.
aggressive act, I think. The good news for all of you is that this is the end of Friday Fabulous Florida, but we must pick a winner. Your favorite story. We don't want to do it. We don't like to pick. It's like picking between children. We love them all. But Albert has options up for you in the chat, and I'll review for you. We had the man who tried to pay for sex at a Florida club because apparently his entreaties were turned down. He calls 911 to complain about not receiving his, quote, services. The massive alligator chasing kayakers and forcing the closure of a major Florida tourist place, and Peaches the flamingo found in Mexico after disappearing from Tampa Bay. Which one really did you find warmed your heart, Michael Shure?
Well, I mean, it's obviously which one warms my heart. I mean, that's Peaches, and that's just a great story. It's Floridian because it's a flamingo, but and the third one because it's a gator, but a gator in the springs. I think the most Friday Fabulous Florida story is the guy calling 911 because he can't get sex at a strip club.
Yeah. That is.
That's pretty
that is
good.
Yeah, pretty good. Kim, how about you?
While I do like no sexo for the Sultan, I am going with the gator. I feel like a gator trying to bite kayakers is uniquely Florida, and I'm sold.
Refund for services not rendered, says shadow producer Calvin Wong. Yeah, got to go with the gator, says Nancy. 911 nookie violation, says Heather. Yeah. Peaches, but the dude from Oz, that's the guy who called for the sex that didn't happen. I'm going with the heartwarming story the flamingo found. How about that?
And the chat agrees. 50% of the chat goes with Peaches. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Good stuff. That's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now, here.
The Mark Thompson Show. I'm just looking at all the things we have to discuss with Michael Shure. This guy, now, let's bring him on. He has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. This is more than just politics, what's happening in America and what's happening internationally. We'll weigh in on everything and try to sort out all the various aspects, or at least many of those things going on with the great Michael Shure. Michael, hello.
Hey, how are you? Are we pretending we didn't already just do a segment?
Well, we dropped this as a separate video, so that's but yeah, we've been talking to Michael, but you can go ahead. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything, but this just exists as a conversation after the live show that we drop separately. That's the way it works.
Got it.
And what happened to the overpriced mic that we bought for you? And no longer.
It's right here, and we didn't.
It doesn't work. I guess you have to select it. Yeah. I guess thanks for showing up, sort of, but you didn't really show up, did you? You kind of half-ass showed up, is what you're.
What?
I thought that I had a little. I thought, first of all, you bought a mic for your correspondent here, and
That was very inappropriate.
His last name is on many mics around the world, and you got one that had somebody else's last name.
Oh, is that the reason that you don't?
So there's a little
bring
bit
it
of
in? I see.
No.
It's kind of your it's passive aggressive. I didn't realize that.
It is a little bit. Now, are we happy with the sound now, Mark?
Happier, absolutely.
Okay.
We are.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Now, let's bring him in now. A man who's forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know, Michael Shure, everyone.
Thank you.
Michael, what's happening now in American cities, Los Angeles, perhaps just the tip of the spear, is remarkable in so many different ways. There are performative aspects to it, that is to say, the high-profile way in which ICE agents go in to Home Depot, they go to Lowe's, they go to the fashion district and shake up these communities. They're going to high school graduations. I mean, this is a level of insanity and aggression that most, I'd suggest, didn't vote for. Now, some may say, well, these people are here, they overstayed their visa, they're here illegally, or they came into the border undocumented. But it would seem that most, I'd say unquestionably, I mean, demonstrably the case, most that have been wrapped up and arrested, they've been contributing members of society. Perhaps their legality in terms of being here is in question, but what they're doing while they're here, working in these various industries or working as day workers, that doesn't seem to be associated with any kind of criminal syndicate.
I'd agree with you. Where I disagree a little bit is I do think people voted for this in theory, and then when it comes into practice, and they see how it's being executed, they probably wouldn't vote for it again. But there are a lot of people that think this is exactly what they voted for. Send them home, deport people who are here illegally. And it's insidious. And, it's not just anecdotal because it's happening all over the country. But I drove around Los Angeles, where I happen to live for the moment, and drove last night looking for a taco stand, right? And there are these sort of impromptu taco stands that become part of the landscape of this city. And there were none anywhere last night. You couldn't find any. Today, I drove by a paint store. I'm actually going to Home Depot. None of the workers, the day workers who are there, and these are people who have families. These are people who work hard. These are people who were leaving other places, presumably where things were terrible. And these are the people they're going after. They're not going after, on the next block, the people that are perpetrating crime, because I saw someone on that block who it was clearly last night a drug deal. I can't say for sure. And it's the priorities of this country and this immigration policy are absurd, right? They're just absurd. And they're reminiscent of fascist regimes and who they go after and how they do it. And I don't think that sits well with anybody.
So, and I would stipulate to the fact that that's probably true. That, I mean, as I said multiple times on this show, it's a net winner. Any conversation about immigration that we're having is a net winner politically for Donald Trump and for the GOP, But what's happening here is another level, as you say. So the questions that were wrestled with, and we did this in the first hour legally, about who controls the National Guard and whether or not the president is within his legal power to bring in the National Guard over the protestations of the governor and the mayor. We kind of addressed that legally, and it appears that there's enough wiggle room here that this actually may be perfectly legal. You know, it may be abhorrent, it may be not what people want, but in terms of the legal high ground, that likely does exist for Trump. And by the time it gets to SCOTUS, what David Katz was saying in the legal analysis in the last hour, this will kind of be a moot point. So now we're left with just the effects on the community and the politics of California and how to deal with a regime in the Trump administration that seems bent on reforming California. You just saw Kristi Noem in the last hour I posted, and we watched the video of her saying, we're here and we're going to stay here to rescue Los Angeles from the socialist mayor and the socialist governor, et cetera, the slow socialist administration. Speak to the ripple effect politically and how this all might go down.
Well, it's hard to speak to the ripple effect politically, because we are 18 months away or 17 months away from the next election where you will see a political ripple effect. I do think that some of the, there's something surgical about the way this is being done by the Trump administration, because it's happening for the most part in blue states with blue governors and blue mayors who he doesn't like. So there's a lot of this is is governance by vengeance, and it is going after someone like Gavin Newsom, someone like Karen Bass. He'll probably go after Katie Hobbs, who is the governor of Arizona. He already did it in J.B. Pritzker's state. You're seeing where I'm going with this. These are people that are opposed to President Trump and may run for president next time, or at least put their name in the hat. So there is something sort of political, not sort of, there's something very political about it. The ripple effect, though, is not one that we will be able to address until we're allowed to address it. And so right now the people in politics are trying to work on a budget and a budget that should be something that everybody's talking about because of what that does, right? I mean, so there are all sorts of things that the Trump administration is doing right now, and that's what we've talked about very frequently in this space, is the chaos that's created by doing a lot at once and having it be very difficult for people to concentrate on one thing or the other. Last week, all anyone was talking about was Elon Musk. We don't talk about it right now, right? I mean, we've moved these news cycles happen so quickly. And then Israel kills people in Iran, so our attention is diverted there. So, and the U.S. response to that is going to be a very important and very kind of vital part of our foreign policy that is important. So to have this distraction of going into the streets of Los Angeles to pick up cleaning ladies and car wash employees is distraction and really vengeance too.
Yeah, there's a lot of distraction going on. You're right. Luis, they aren't going after real criminals, he says, because gangs and drug dealers have guns, while day laborers and hotel hospital staff have paintbrushes and mops. It is true. They're going for soft targets. They're not going after violent criminals.
I mean,
I'll put it this way: they're not. They're overwhelmingly picking up nonviolent criminals. Overwhelmingly, I mean, if they're
all they needed was the name of a couple of victims of violent crime, and that gives them license to go after everybody. Because what you have to understand is the people that did vote for this, and again, not enough people in America vote, but this is of the people who voted. This was a big issue, and the people who voted for this. Look at the people that they're picking up right now and think that among them there are all of these evildoers. It is impossible for there not to be any bad people that they're picking up or any who are of a criminal element, because in any sample of humans in this country, that's what happens. But it is disproportionately less than to the people who are citizens here now. And we are using the name Laken Riley, for example, a victim of violent crime by an immigrant, to round up immigrants all over the country who are living peacefully here and who are not causing the problem. As a matter of fact, they're paying taxes into our government, which, if these bills are passed, is going to go even further into debt. So they help this country in many, many ways, obviously in more ways than they hurt it. And it's hard to know how they hurt it.
I want to turn now quickly to Iran and the attack on Iran by Israel. The attack was associated with the enrichment of uranium that's going on in Iran and the perception on the part of the Israelis, and I think probably on the international community stage, it's the same perception, and that is that they are trying to attain a nuclear capability that would change the arithmetic in the Middle East dramatically. They're also trying to develop these missile systems, et cetera. So there was a treaty involved with the Obama administration and the Iranians that actually had a monitoring of that situation in Iran. And you seemed to see then a kind of quelling of at least hostilities between the U.S. and Iran during that Obama administration, to the degree that it was reflected in the putting together that and navigating that agreement. Anyway, Trump in season one, his first 4 years, he tears up that agreement right away, same day that he tore up the Paris Climate Accord. And anything with Obama, he wanted out.
Yeah.
He tried, though, to reconstitute it and has made multiple efforts to supposedly reconstitute a nuclear arms agreement. But to no avail, Israel goes in, and we don't know where those negotiations stood. I've heard every different kind of calculus on that. Well, we were close to a deal, and the Israelis were worried that we were going to make a deal, so they came in, they preemptively. I heard the whole deal was never even getting off the mat. It didn't look like anything was happening. And in the meantime, they were enriching uranium, and they were fast pedaling their trip to nuclear armament. And that's why the Israelis moved in. Be that as it may, and whatever scenario you buy into, this is a sea change in what's going on in the Middle East, and it could be wildly destabilizing.
Well, of course it could be. And so there's so much at play here. Republicans let the perfect get in the way of the good with the nuclear agreement in Iran. It was not perfect. And you're never going to be able to trust the government completely in Iran that these inspections were taking place. But flawless shouldn't be the goal. Better should be the goal. And better was what it seemed as if there was. But it's easy to go after anything in the Obama administration, especially something that you're able to sell on the campaign trail, is making deals with terrorists. And that, you have to say, it worked, right? I mean, it worked for Trump in 2016. It wasn't an amplifying point in 2024 when he did win. In 2020, it wasn't really part of the election at all. But now you see these chickens come home to roost, and you see what's going on with Israel. Now, Israel has lost a lot of currency on the international front because of the war that's being waged in Gaza. So while they're very different, and Israel may have reason, I would argue that they do have reason to take action against Iran, even though it's destabilizing and dangerous. Iran sponsors a lot of the terrorism that comes across Israel's borders. But because of what's going on in Gaza, everybody thinks that Benjamin, I shouldn't say everybody, but many people think that Benjamin Netanyahu is a renegade on the loose all over the world. And that, to answer your question in what is now a very long way, is really what is destabilizing. And Netanyahu has destabilized that region over the last year with the response. There should have been a response, but the enduring response and the disproportionate response, in this guy's opinion, of what happened in Gaza. Now it's destabilized even further because you're inviting Iran, a powerful and nuclear nation, into the conversation.
I'll just note that one of the reasons that the Israelis went for Iran at this time, in addition to whatever nuclear capabilities they were on the verge of capturing, the Israelis went there because the Iranians have been diminished militarily as a result of their recent back and forth with Israel. You remember they launched all those missiles into Israel, and
right.
there were retaliatory strikes. Those diminished, for example, their air capacity and militarily, I'm talking about. So if you will, see a weakened Iran and an opportunity right now to strike. And that's why they struck right now. At least that's, I think, a reasonable take on things. You know, Michael, I wanted to just do one thing because I think it reflects this administration. I think this administration is made up of rank amateurs, most of whom are just saluting this guy who's allowed them access to Washington, power, the presidency, etc. Some are there for self-enrichment. Some are there just for the power trip. Some for some mix of both. I don't view any of them particularly as sincere public servants, but maybe I'm wrong about some percentage of them. But I do know when it comes to Iran and when it comes to Russia and when it comes to diplomacy, we have rank amateurs who are there. The reason that, and these are my opinions, not Michael Shure's, but I can say full-throatedly that these are people with absolutely no background in diplomacy, no background in geopolitics. The guy who is running the Iran negotiation for the U.S. is a real estate developer. That's what he has done all his life, real estate development. He is a golfing buddy of Donald Trump. Witkoff, look him up, Google him, read about him in Wikipedia.
Google it.
He has absolutely no background in diplomacy, no background in geopolitics. That's who's handling a situation that has now spilled over into an armed conflict.
Yeah.
It's not fun. This isn't a TV show. I understand Trump wants to cast the good-looking service people around him when he speaks. We're going to have a big show tomorrow in Washington for his birthday with the military. That's all stuff. He's using the National Guard and the Marines as props. It's a play presidency, a theatrical presidency, but it's real world. And you have absolute amateurs working in on stage who've never been there before.
I would agree. I mean, that part I'd agree with. And there isn't a respect for the existing structures of government and negotiation that comes from the top down in this administration or the previous Trump administration, which makes a big difference, right? I mean, when Obama was there, I believe it was Wendy Sherman and Rob Malley. Rob Malley had his own problems. John Kerry, his vice president was Joe Biden, who at that time had spent a lot of time as the chair of the Foreign Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Senate, had a very whatever criticism you have of the former president, when he was in the Senate, he had a breadth of knowledge and familiarity with those areas. And he was advising the president at that time, too, on the JCPOA, which was the Iran nuclear treaty. So, yeah, when you have people over there doing this who shouldn't be a real estate, you should have boring people whose names you don't know running this thing, and if it's a boring person whose name you don't know, who is part of the foreign who has State Department, who has Foreign Service and Secretary of State Department experience over there, it's super important, and it makes a big difference. And this has nothing to do with whether or not Israel was in the right or the wrong, or what it does to destabilize that area. But it certainly does speak to the fact that you aren't getting the leadership that's required, whatever the case. And that's a terrible place for the country to be in. Not to mention, this is a president who ran by saying that all the wars were because of Biden and he'll end them all in a day or so, right? And things have, I would argue, gotten worse.
It seems so, demonstrably BS.
Yeah.
Such a clunky con was the Trump con. So again, he just puts people in who are all just loyalists. They are amateurs. They have no allegiance to anything but Trump. We saw that with the Pete Hegseth back and forth. Pete Hegseth saying that he, in a congressional hearing, he said he wouldn't necessarily respect a judge's take on the powers of the U.S. military.
Yeah,
I mean, he's saying what we know, which is we have control now, and we are not going to be limited by a judge's order.
Yeah.
I looked up, Albert pushed me Witkoff. Thank you, Albert, just from Wikipedia. This is the guy who's handling all of this diplomatic stuff.
Right.
Began his career as a real estate lawyer. Then he went on to form Stellar Management, which is a real estate firm. Then he formed the Witkoff Group. Is that some diplomatic? No, it's a real estate group. He was CEO of this Witkoff Group, headquartered in New York City. Got to know Donald Trump. They purchased the Park Lane Hotel on Central Park South in Manhattan. Witkoff Group purchased the Fontainebleau Hotel in Las Vegas for $600 million. Again, close to Trump, billionaire guy. And then in 2020, during the first presidency of Donald Trump, he was working with the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in the U.S. Then he gave a speech on night 4 of the Republican National Convention in 2024. And lo and behold, he is chosen to be co-chair of the Presidential Inaugural Committee for the second presidency. And then he's appointed U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East. He has this is not me saying this, it's in Wikipedia. Witkoff has no diplomatic experience.
And it should be noted, and I'm not just saying this to add on to pile on, but his son Zach Witkoff is the head of World Liberty Financial, and World Liberty Financial is a cryptocurrency company that was founded last year in 2024, and now you'll be surprised to know, through its connections to Donald Trump, it's going to be the one that launches USD1, which is that the what do you call it, the dollar pegged stable coin that's going to be out and has the connections to the administration. So highly controversial for its Chinese connections as well. And so they spin these webs all because this is another part of another person in Trump world. And that's all that matters is loyalty, because loyalty gets you access.
Exactly. And what Michael's talking about is the self-enrichment of this administration. Witkoff's son owns that
World Liberty Financial.
Liberty Financial with the Trumps. Yeah, as you say. And so they all make money every time anybody buys anything on that platform. And most of all, when they buy the meme coin, the Trump meme coin purchased on that platform, that makes everybody rich on all sides. Yeah. They're double dipping. I'm glad we could just talk about that for a second, because to the extent that there can be any kind of negotiated settlement or maneuver through all of this, it's in the hands of a real estate developer. He doesn't know that,
right. As opposed to the Iran nuclear deal previously was in the hands of Wendy Sherman, right? Wendy Sherman was someone who worked for President Clinton at the State Department, worked for Hillary Clinton, worked for with John Kerry. She worked with Madeleine Albright. She negotiated the North Korean peace agreement, or the nuclear weapons agreement there. That is who you send to do these things. You don't send a real estate guy from the Upper East Side.
Right. As someone who doesn't
and
know
there's nothing wrong with real estate people on the Upper East Side.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with being rich. We all want to make money in this culture, but it's sort of set up that way. But if you don't know the Sunnis from the Shiites, you're going to be, it's going to be tough sledding. Michael, thank you. Staying overtime with us. I appreciate it. All the ways you contribute to the show, because you're a great supporter and you come through when you can, when I'm not here. And you brought Patrick McEnroe through. And that's still, the halo effect is still something I'm loving. So, 48 seconds of sports. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be nice to talk about. Albert, you there?
Hello.
All right. Hey, okay. So we had game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals last night. This is, Mark, I'm sure you're watching it a little bit, because it is pretty compelling, even for someone who, doesn't follow hockey and likes to sort of rib people who do. But the games have been extraordinary. Last night, Florida was up 3-0 after being up 2-1 in the series. Looked grim. Edmonton comes out, scores 3 goals in the second, go to the third, Edmonton scores, and then with 23 seconds left, tied up by Florida, Edmonton wins in overtime. It's just exciting sport.
Albert,
yeah, and that's, I think, Leon Draisaitl, that player that's pictured here, that's his 4th overtime winner. I think that's the most in playoff history. So.
Yeah, it's fourth in this playoffs, and there he is. And it wasn't even a pretty goal. Look at the dejected Florida fan up above. But it's really fun. And then I understand the NBA is having a good playoff right now. They must be in the finals by now.
No, that
too.
was a really close a game last night. And I just will mention Michael Reich says, "Hey, talk about Sinner against Alcatraz.
We
5.5 hours.
We were going to get to that. Sinner Alcaraz. I found that a really hard match to watch, as good as it was, Mark. I don't know if it happened to you. We're probably 40 seconds into this at this point, but the Carlos Alcaraz, the fandom in France for him made me feel bad for this amazing for Sinner.
Yeah.
And I found it I just felt so terribly for Sinner that I actually turned the match off for a good long while because I felt so badly for this amazing tennis player.
Well, Sinner, who had match point and who was dominant in the first
triple
two
match,
sets.
wasn't it? Triple match point.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
multiple match points.
Multiple match points.
And then Alcaraz began this comeback, and it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it was a bit heartbreaking to watch. Yeah, I think Jules is right. Yeah. Sinner blew the first two sets. It was
the second two sets, right? Didn't Sinner win the first two
sets? Yeah, he won the first two sets, but blew the first two set lead. Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
Rev P says, "How about Coco Gauff? Come on!"
Right. Well, there we go. And we're not done with Roland Garros, Rev. That was an amazing victory over Sabalenka. American tennis. I mean, she's great. Coco Gauff. She's fun. She's very serious, and I think people want her to be more light. But she is such a good player, and she beat someone who seems at least unbeatable, right, Mark?
Yeah, well, Sabalenka is so powerful, so dominant. And I will say this.
Yeah.
In tennis, generally, it's hard. I love all the characters, and you try to know who they are and what their background is and some of their stories. But this is particularly the case in her match. I root for the person who's screaming, shouting, and grunting less. And Sabalenka is a major screamer, shouter, grunter. And dominant, major, mad respect for her game. But gosh, I wish we could just turn down the old school. I'm old school, Michael. Back when I was a kid, Rod Laver.
He never grunted, huh?
Well, who am I thinking of? Sampras.
Right.
He wasn't a big grunter. I guess Agassi was something of a grunter, right?
He was a grunter. I mean, grunting wasn't always there in tennis, but I will say that I
it
would
doesn't
not
bother
use
you the
that.
way it bothers me.
I wouldn't use that as a reason to root for or against anyone.
All right, I may have to reconsider it. Have to reconsider it. I'm not above reconsidering things. In the moment with Paul Sisler, too, with a $10 super chat, says, "Thank you, Mark, for delivering the best news on the internet. It was a pleasure opening for you on Radio Uninvited, episode 1.
You were episode 2. 1, and look at that.
Wow, that's cool. That's a great name for a podcast.
Well, that's 47 now, 48 seconds. So thanks for having me, and thanks for indulging the sport. And we'll see you. We'll see.
Wait. Jim Shields agrees with me on the grunting. Yeah.
Right. So I don't disagree with you or Jim Shields. What I'm saying is that I don't think it's a good criteria for who you root for or against.
Michael dropping gems, says Jules T.
Especially given the amount of screaming and grunting on this very show.
How dare you? How dare you?
Very good point.
I am really.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
All right, I'm going to go out on a rainbow. How about that?
Would you like to go out on a rainbow?
Yeah, I never get
All
to.
right. Michael Shure. So long, Michael. Wow. Who knew? You wanted that rainbow. You're all angry now that you got your rainbow. Jeez.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Running just, you people are, who are you people? My God. I don't know what the issue is. But there is an issue. I know. All right. Michael, are you just about ready to start your thing?
Yeah, but I call copyright infringement.
I got it.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
All right.
Hey, wait. And speaking of grunts, how about those Marines? Oh, never mind.
No, very good. Grunts and grunts. I get it. Luis says they aren't going after real criminals because gangs. I read this already. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching the show. Whoever put that back up. I appreciate that. Could the war with Iran actually be good for Ukraine? Fewer drones that Iran can send to Russia, says Tony. Interesting. Never thought of that. Will tell you that I think the drones are large in number to the point that it may not matter, but it's a really interesting take that, and I think more to the point, and it was what I was saying before, Iran is diminished now militarily a bit, which is why the Israelis felt, I think, on some level militarily emboldened to make this move, right? There's just a little less pushback, particularly when it comes to their air defenses. So for the first time in 20 years, Iran decides to suddenly stop complying with the agreed upon nuclear regulation. Why? That says Michael. Well, I think those who are not fans of Iran would say, Michael, it's not the first time in 20 years. You may characterize it that way, but the reality is that Iran was running afoul of that deal already. And so this is simply a response to what has been repeated violations of that deal. Now, I thought the Iran nuclear deal, as crafted by the Obama people, was good. Not perfect, but good. But of course, Trump tore that up on day one. And so now as he tries to get some other deal together, it's just not happening. And so the Israelis have done this. And again, it could be wildly destabilizing. And as I was mentioning, you have utter amateurs in charge. I mean, they just don't know what's going on. So, all right. I know we've had a lot to do today. I was so grateful that David Katz came by with the legal stuff. We'll drop that as a separate video, and we'll drop Shure as a separate video. We'll drop all of these things as a separate video. But Kim, am I clear by the tower to proceed to Snyder?
I think you are. I think I would like for you to take a big sip of coffee.
Yeah,
I do
really want a piece. I've had a great...
A little bit of love to Coachella Valley Coffee. My vanilla tea arrived in the mail, and I am one happy camper.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, they're great people in every way. This is a boutique roastery in the desert of California. It's called Coachella Valley Coffee, kind of near Palm Springs. And, well, it's the Coachella Valley. And I sent you, Albert, a photo of the Coachella Valley Coffee mug, one of their like Stanley, you can order it, I think, on their website.
For the Father's Day special.
Being used by a U.S. senator, I believe it was, in a congressional hearing. Senator or congressman, I forget which one. Did you get that, Albert? Do you look at your email? I mean,
Albert, thank you.
I do have emails. Let me
oh my God. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know why I can't.
Don't get it.
I don't get it. Why do I send this stuff to him when he's not even going to? There it is. Coachella Valley Coffee. Look at it.
Good rally, Albert. Nice.
Mr. Ruiz, good rally, Albert. He hadn't even gone in. I had to tell him that it was there.
I mean,
how dare you? Good rally.
Why are you yelling?
It helps with a good title for an email. A CVC is really hard for me with all my emails coming in. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. You'd think though, maybe you'd pay attention to my emails. They all relate to the show.
I blame you.
Gosh, I just don't believe it.
They are kissing my ass.
No, they're not. Not on this show. They're not. Jeez. I don't know.
Look at Mr. Ruiz from California with his Coachella Valley coffee cup.
Yeah, so those who are just listening, there is a big orange Coachella Valley coffee cup going into the lips of Mr. Ruiz in California. Albert will get you the whole rundown on what district he represents. But I'm delighted to see that. And you too can have a big, beautiful Coachella Valley mug and their great coffee to sit in that mug, and you too will be part of our it's so good, man. Really so good. So do, when you go there, tea, coffee, spices, use our discount code MarkT at checkout. It's a boutique roastery, hand roasted everything. This is fresh crop. This isn't discounted bean stuff that you can find on the internet. It's been sitting around the warehouse for months. No, this is all fresh. And as I say, hand roasted. So definitely check it out. All right. Without any further delay, although, gosh, it's so fun to delay.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring him in when it comes to all films, the Marvel movies, the DC universe, some weird indie film that looks like it was scripted and produced by a bunch of guys who were baked. You've got the subtitles, some obscure Korean offering. He sees it all. I don't know how he does it. Put it together for a man who comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the delightful culture blaster, Michael Snyder, everyone.
Woo! It's Friday the 13th, and shockingly, no new horror movies are being released this weekend.
That's amazing.
What? On the other hand, we have the totally scary sight of Homeland Security doyen Kristi Noem threatening to terrorize Los Angeles and the state of California with unbridled troops to crush dissent. And, you know, there's a well-known grindcore movie called Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, about a villainous female Nazi officer with perverse tastes. And now we have Ilsa, She-Bimbo of the Ice, telling us
get it.
we are subject to her whims.
Get it.
Still, we have to steel ourselves for this weekend's inevitable clash in Los Angeles. And I'm not talking about the No Kings rallies. I'm talking Giants versus Dodgers. Vying for first place in the National League West. It's all going down starting tonight at what we Giants backers like to call Chavez Latrine. And I would advise any Giants fan in attendance to wear their riot gear. On the other hand, if you're in L.A., and we are, you know that the jacaranda is in bloom, and those purple bluish flowers on tree after tree are pretty glorious, and not quite the calla lilies, but better on the color spectrum. And I do this by way of sweetening the mood because we got to talk about new movies.
I love it.
Morning.
Yeah, let's get it on.
Okay, coincidentally or not, DreamWorks' new movie, How to Train Your Dragon, is being released just a couple weeks after the less than satisfying live-action CGI mix that was the remake of the Disney animated classic Lilo and Stitch. An energetic adventure film for the entire family, How to Train Your Dragon is also a live-action CGI remake of an animated classic, the 2010 DreamWorks hit about a Viking teen named Hiccup. Is that a traditional Viking name, by the way?
I've never heard it before as a Viking name. But...
Well, Hiccup tames a purportedly fearsome dragon.
Purportedly is a ding word.
The new Lilo and Stitch is kind of entertaining enough. It's doing great box office, but the new How to Train Your Dragon does a better job of adding flesh and blood humans to its fanciful story, and it does so by hewing closely to the beats of the original. So
hewing is a ding word.
The reserved Hiccup, played by Mason Thames, is a would-be inventor and a real disappointment to his father, mighty warrior chief Stroik. And he's played by Gerard Butler, who voiced Stroik in the 2010 cartoon as well, and other How to Train Your Dragon spin-offs. Stroik is the leader of a Viking enclave that has done battle with a horde of dragons for many years, and that apparently endless conflict is turned inside out when Hiccup befriends the dragon that he names Toothless and learns crucial things about the dragons that change his life and may forever alter the relationship between the longtime enemies, the Vikings, and the dragons. This retelling of How to Train Your Dragon goes for more expansive visual spectacle. It's all video, but it's visual. More expansive than the 2010 version, and it certainly helps that the first iteration of the story was 3D style computer animated, unlike the original Lilo Stitch, which was more like hand-drawn 2D. So the transition from the initial dragon to this new one is visually seamless. Plus, Dean DeBlois, director of the original How to Train Your Dragon, is the director of the remake. And
that's cool.
He knows and honors the material.
When was the first one, the original?
2010.
Okay, sorry.
I guess they figured it was long enough to go to the well again.
Well, as you say, they can improve in so many ways on other visual aspects of it.
And again, seamless. The characters, the world, and the message of tolerance and respect are honored here. By the way, supporting players include Nico Parker as the plucky Astrid, who's the most accomplished teenage Viking warrior in training until Hiccup starts coming into his own, and Nick Frost of all those great Edgar Wright comedies with Simon Pegg. He plays the somewhat goofy master of arms Gobber, who serves as Hiccup's mentor. By the way, we like to do this, Nepo baby alert. Parker, who was recently in HBO's The Last of Us, is the daughter of actress Thandiwe Newton and director Ollie Parker, but she's quite good. So it's not just one of those, legacy situations. If you like cheerful fantasy and haven't seen the original How to Train Your Dragon, you will definitely enjoy this. And if you've seen the original, you may think this is more commercially exploitive IP done by the suits, but at least it's done well.
And let me just, so I didn't see the original, so you think I might actually really enjoy this?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to watch.
And I like something uplifting, Michael.
And it's fun. It's for the whole family, so if you can get your brain in...
I need to get a family to go with.
Well, no, get your brain in prepubescent mode. You will. No, it's actually a little more sophisticated than that. I thought it was well done. Again, though, product. Ooh, speaking of Nepo babies.
It's in theaters now.
It is. Materialists is the second movie from screenwriter-director Celine Song, whose award-winning debut feature, Past Lives, marked her as a filmmaker to watch. And although it doesn't feel like blatant Oscar bait, Materialists does try to do something canny. It seems to be Song's attempt to recalibrate, reinvent, or undermine what we commonly think of as a romantic comedy by salting in dramatic elements. And here she's telling the story of a high-end matchmaker in New York City whose own love life is on hold due to her desire to find a unicorn, a wealthy and handsome partner, and her refusal to settle. So in a very savvy bit of casting, here's where the legacy situation comes into play. Dakota Johnson, that's right, daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, and a better actor than either of them, was tapped to play the sophisticated Lucy, whose success at finding mates for others doesn't mean she's going to be that fortunate. So Johnson can project elegance or earthiness, which is kind of helpful here. She looks great in jeans or haute couture, and thus it assists her in embodying Lucy, who is a woman from a working class background who has tried to leave all that behind, all of her financially challenged years, plus the struggling actor she loved with all her heart but dumped because of his questionable prospects. So Lucy thinks she's found the unicorn, a man of means played by the seemingly omnipresent Pedro Pascal. That's right, the Mandalorian, the star of The Last of Us, soon to be in Fantastic Four. He's everywhere, and he's here. He plays this guy. But Lucy's ex, who is, by the way, played to a T by Chris Captain America Evans himself, re-enters her life and complications ensue. So when given the right material and director, Johnson shines. That was the case with her performance in Luca Guadagnino's A Bigger Splash, and with her two-hander with Sean Penn, Daddy-O. She's great. And she shines here too, as does Evans, because he brings real feels to his part. I found Materialists to be smart, thoughtful, witty, manipulative, and charming, kind of like its ambitious protagonist. Johnson really owns the role of Lucy, and her scenes with Evans are frighteningly spot on and all too familiar to anybody who's experienced the push and pull battle between love and expediency. So Materialists is further proof that when it comes to making movies that can move you, Song sings. Materialists is in theaters.
I got the Song sings thing.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, let's get to something that you can watch online in the streaming land, graced by a notable cast led by Bryce Dallas Howard, Orlando Bloom, and Nick Mohammed. You may remember Nick Mohammed from the wonderful Ted Lasso series.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So they're in Deep Cover. It's Deep Cover, a sneaky, funny crime comedy about three improv actors who are coerced by a scheming police detective.
I love it already.
Into going undercover in the London underworld to take down a crew of drug dealers.
Okay.
So I know the concept is really pretty funny, and
it's terrific.
They execute it pretty well.
Okay, it's called Deep Cover.
Right.
Okay.
So Howard is Kat, an American actress whose career never went anywhere. So she's teaching improvisational comedy. What do they say? Those who can do, those who can't teach. Anyway, Bloom and Mohammed play two of her students, Bloom being a method actor named Marlon, that's right, as in Brando, whose own career is stuck at the less than satisfying juncture of failed auditions for commercials, and Mohammed being an office drone whose terrible social skills inspire him to loosen up by studying improv. the swaggering Sean Bean is the cop who recruits them into impersonating bad guys to get next to a mobster played by no less than Patty Considine. So good as a member of the Harrington crime family in the current smash of a TV series, Mobland. And the big boss that everyone fears is played by Ian McShane of HBO's Deadwood and Game of Thrones and the John Wick movies. He's Winston, manager of the Continental Hotel for Assassins in John Wick. So Deep Cover is directed by Tom Kingsley and co-written by San Francisco native Colin Trevorrow, who has scripted installments of the Jurassic World movie franchise, and he also directed the cool indie sci-fi comedy Safety Not Guaranteed. You know, concept, execution, I really enjoyed Deep Cover, and I bet the cast and crew had a blast making it. It's not one for the archives, right?
I see.
But it was a hell of a lot of fun to watch, and it is on Amazon Prime Video, so you can just tune right in.
It seems like a really fun premise. Yeah, that's for sure.
And it was executed, well executed, I thought. Okay, quickly, following on the heels of Alex Baldwin's controversial Rust, The Unholy Trinity is another small-scale Western featuring some stars, in this case, slumming amid the sagebrush in 1970s Montana. And it's Pierce Brosnan, so good, by the way, in Mobland right now, and Samuel L. Jackson, the Samuel L. Jackson, supported by David Arquette, Tim Daly, and even young Mr. Spock from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Ethan Peck. Oh, another Nepo. He is, of course, Gregory Peck's grandson.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, this is dusty stuff and more than just the preponderance of gritty dirt one finds on the plains. Been here, rode that range. But the concept is that a young fellow witnesses his father being hung for a crime that he maybe didn't commit, and he is sent to a small town where he's supposed to find the people that really did this criminal activity and get revenge for his father. And the boy, Henry, finds himself under the protection of the sheriff of that town, played by Pierce Brosnan. Henry he's a solid character here, and he's performed by a guy named Brandon Lessard, who keeps up with the big boys. And Samuel L. Jackson is a guy named St. Christopher, a mysterious figure who knows about some hidden gold and wants to dig it up. You know, we've been here before, and this is okay. It's in theaters, but, you know, it's not anything that I'm going to praise to the rooftops. Directed by Richard Gray, written by Lee Zachariah. It's all right. It's called The Unholy Trinity, and if this is your jam, yeah, feel free to check it out. But again, it's no great shakes. And let's wrap up the movie section of today's Chit Chat with Echo Valley, which stars Julianne Moore, always good, as a later-in-life lesbian and horse rancher named Kate, who lost her wife in a tragic accident on the farm, and she continues to have to deal with her drug-addicted daughter, Claire, played by, are you ready? Sydney Sweeney, in a serious role that forces her to stretch and do some, you know, heavy dramatic work opposite the great Julianne Moore, and she keeps up with Moore in this thing. So the drug-addicted daughter comes from Kate's first marriage to a well-to-do businessman played by Kyle MacLachlan. This is really an interesting cast, and it also features the renowned British character actress Fiona Shaw as Kate's best friend and fellow member of the Sisterhood of Sappho, if you will, and Donald Gleason, whoa, Nepo baby alert, of the Gleason acting family from Ireland, an acting clan, if you will, playing Claire's fearsome drug dealer and kind of looking like we've never seen him before. He's pretty damn good. So if you want to watch really good actors in action in a soapy and somewhat predictable drama, mystery, thriller, which has a terrific third act. Oftentimes, third acts are like crummy. This is actually pretty good. It's called Echo Valley.
And where can I see Echo Valley?
It is in theaters and now streaming on Apple TV+.
Wow, that's cool.
It's not great. Like The Unholy Trinity, it's hard for me to just say, woohoo, check this out, you're going to love it. But it's solid. Again, the Michael Snyder two-word criticism, not terrible. That's the best I can say about it.
Yeah, okay.
So a quick note on television shows that I'm enamored of. Department Q on Netflix.
People are asking if Donald Gleason's related to Jackie Gleason.
Not at all. It's two E's, not an EA. Come on.
Come on.
And away we go. That's for all your older kids.
Yeah.
Department Q on Netflix rocks. This is the baby, the brainchild of Scott Frank, who created and oversaw Monsieur Spade, which I absolutely loved, which is a kind of an extension of the Sam Spade character we know from the Maltese
Oh,
faction.
of course. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
great miniseries.
That was dark, though, that wasn't it? The
Yeah.
Monsieur Spade was dark.
But excellent.
Is Department Q also dark?
In its way. This guy, by the way, also created, are you ready for this? The Queen's Gambit. This guy is a solid screenwriter.
Wow.
He did Logan, Minority Report, Out of Sight. Department Q stars Matthew Good as a kind of problematic cop who nearly dies in an ambush and is kind of compelled to be in charge of a new police department at the Edinburgh Police Force, where he goes into cold cases and digs them up. And he finds one that is kind of a can of worms that ends up impacting the local government, the actual police force,
Corruption,
etc.
huh, Michael?
There's a
Am I
measure-
right?
there's a
I'm
measure
guessing
of it.
corruption. Yep.
Great supporting work, by the way, by the lovely Kelly MacDonald from Old Country, No Country for Old Men, and Train Spotting, and Gosford Park, and anyway, she was in Boardwalk Empire. Kelly MacDonald, great. The cast itself across the board is pretty terrific. I really enjoyed Department Q. It's a self-contained story that leaves space for maybe continuance if the people react to this in a positive way. It's on Netflix. I really, really liked it.
Wow. How about that?
And I do also want to say, because I have been asked by various Mark Thompson Show audience members to bring this up, Duster is available on HBO Max. And it's okay. Imagine if author Elmore Leonard and filmmaker Quentin Tarantino teamed up on a project. It might be Duster, which is a wry crime TV series set in the American Southwest, mostly Phoenix, Arizona, during the 1970s, with Josh Holloway from Lost as Jim Ellis, a laconic but charming getaway driver for a local mobster who has big plans. And our anti-hero Jim finds himself in a sticky situation when he's reluctantly recruited by a novice FBI agent, a black woman with an afro and a grudge, to take down the mobster. J.J. Abrams produced this thing.
A black woman with an afro and a grudge.
The needle drops from the era are fantastic. I'm really enjoying Duster on HBO Max.
I love this report. It felt very complete. I feel sated. Duster is the offering that Michael recommends on HBO Max with the kind of pedigree. Josh Holloway from Lost. It's a crime TV series with a great bite. He likes it. Department Q from Scott Frank, who did Monsieur Spade. Also Queen's Gambit and Logan, Minority Report. Great pedigree here, too.
Yep.
Department Q is a cop kind of thing. Cop nearly dies in an ambush, works on cold cases, and he discovers a cold case, multi-layered, that may involve the government, may involve a lot of different tentacles that extend to all the very corners of our story.
Yes, indeed.
Kelly MacDonald is one of the stars, and Netflix is where you can see it.
Indeed.
Now to the theaters. The magic of what's going on in the dark. That was Department Q. That's right. This is Echo Valley. Julianne Moore plays Kate. Sydney Sweeney plays the daughter, drug addicted. First husband, Kyle MacLachlan. Donald Gleason is in this. He likes it. Doesn't adore it.
No.
Likes it, though.
It was fun to watch.
It's in theaters, but if you can't organize a theater trip, it is also streaming.
On Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus. Echo Valley is what that's called. The Unholy Trinity. It's the small-scale Western, sort of the sort that was much advertised around the accident that Alec Baldwin was in.
Sort of like Rust, yeah.
Yeah. The Pierce Brosnan, Samuel L. Jackson number is also something that he likes, doesn't love. Brandon Lassard is in it. Ethan Peck, the grandson of Gregory Peck.
your beloved Mr. Spock on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, coming back for a new season in a couple of weeks.
You'll find them all in the unholy trinity. Again, it's in theaters. He doesn't love it, but he likes it with a small L.
It was okay,
Deep Cover is the one that I just love the premise of. I adore this premise. It's streaming. Bryce Dallas Howard, Nick Mohammed, Orlando Bloom, the villain played by Ian McShane. How could it go wrong, Michael? How could it go wrong?
It didn't for me. It sure didn't.
Why are you yelling?
It's an undercover drug deal that they have recruited these improv actors to be part of. It's a
Ooh, it's a wild idea.
Wait,
Just
Mark.
I like it.
Give me a premise. No.
I think it could. This is one I am going to see, but I'll have to go to the theater to do it.
No, it's Amazon.
Oh, that's
Prime.
right. We said streaming was the first thing I said. Actually, yeah, Amazon Prime. Sorry, I misspoke, and I stand corrected.
I stand corrected.
Materialists is the Celine Song directed offering. It's a reimagined romantic comedy. High-end matchmaker in New York, is it?
Indeed.
Dakota Johnson plays the matchmaker. Pedro Pascal is in it. Chris Evans is in it.
Wonderful.
And Michael says, like a great band, when they are playing a great song, they're great, meaning parts of the script are so good that Michael was very enthusiastic about it. But parts of the script also, I got the impression, a little softer, maybe not as enthused about those, but overall you felt it was good material.
Oh, no, I thought it was good and really worth seeing. I think Celine Song is a real talent, and I love Past Lives. Maybe this isn't up to that, but Materialists is, again, I got to say, it's smart. It's, it's witty. It's charming. I
So
really
you
enjoyed
liked it?
I did.
All right, I'm sorry. I may have somehow diminished your enthusiasm for this in my recapitulation of what you said.
Hey, these Nepo baby projects make you kind of look twice sometimes.
Well, I don't think you should be so tough on them, Michael. Nepos need work too.
They do.
Materialist, again, is its name, and you can find it in theaters. How to Train Your Dragon was the first film that he reviewed. It's a remake from the 2010 offering, and he says now in the magic of technology that has sort of enabled so much more, you've got a really fun, good movie being directed by the guy who directed the first movie, the original movie. So a great family film, and for those who are looking for a fun experience, you like it. It's in theaters.
Yeah, more than a Xerox of the original, but it does hew closely to all the elements that made the original great.
Wow. This is true. Sam Jackson looks like his character in The Hateful Eight in this kind of... That was the Western thing.
There had to have been a golf course near where they shot this thing for Sam to do it, I think. He
Thank
loves
you for Rev P. I agree with that.
He
I'm
loves
going
the
to
golf.
excuse the witness, Kim, unless you have a question of any kind or a comment.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Kim is prepping for the after party.
Yeah,
she
she's
can't
so
be
checked
worried
out.
about
I
that.
mean,
checked out
come
about
on.
35 minutes ago. It's so fun to watch her just trying to check out.
Actually, I was really excited about what he had to say about the materialistic movie.
Yeah, I think you're going to love Materialist. Of all the films we discussed today, that's the one where I would direct you, Kim.
All right. You've been directed, Kim.
So I was paying attention.
Yes, you were.
Yes,
All right. I'm
sort of.
sorry. I cast an aspersion.
I blame you.
But even Michael felt that you might have checked out.
Yeah,
so.
but don't denigrate Kim.
yeah.
She's our queen.
She is our queen. There's no doubt about that. Michael, thank you. You can find Michael and read his stuff at thevoicesf.org. He has musings about things that extend well beyond the world of streaming and theater entertainment.
Although the current column is about The Life of Chuck, a movie that is also very much worth seeing.
I'd love it. I love your writings. I think you're a great writer. All right. Michael?
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
I don't think it should be hit as a time waster, Michael. I'm trying to promote your work.
Fine.
All right. You come and you go on a rainbow. Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, everybody.
See you next week, everybody.
Yeah, you are beloved. You are beloved by our audience.
Yeah.
Right. Snyder should pen a movie, says CC Ryder. Have you ever thought about...
He should.
writing something, Michael?
I've done it. I've done it in the animation realm, but the last major project got put into turnaround because of the pandemic. So we're working on something else right now.
That was a setup. I know that he is actually a prolific writer and writer of screenplays as well. It's hard, you know.
I think he should write something for us to do.
Rev P says Snyder is the movie. Yeah, you are.
Ignore Kim. Don't worry about it.
Certainly kinetic. By the way, I want to tell people I'm wearing my Los Angeles Matadors T-shirt today in solidarity with my fellow Angelinos. I may be a San Franciscan at the core, but I also consider myself a resident and citizen of Los Angeles.
Well, that's very good.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Yeah, I will celebrate you that way, though. You're a citizen of the world, and you're a citizen of all communities in this great world, Michael. And now, if you would please collect your materials and get the hell out of here. Okay, I'm just saying that your segment it runneth over. Okay.
What?
Okay, so I'm just saying. Good day, sir. Is what I'm saying.
Good day, sir.
Kim.
Yeah.
I'd like to delay longer because I just enjoy the fact that you become more uncomfortable the more you know you have to start your after party live very late. And
that
means
nice
you have
of
to end it very late, and you have to arrange for kids to be picked up at judo or piano or ballet or, you know.
Yeah.
Did you see that Donald Trump was taking flute lessons apparently as a child? That made a kind of viral run. Yeah, and I thought of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and he would likely have some common ground, you know.
No, there's no common ground.
No.
But this weekend is the No King March, and that will be in cities across the country. So a lot of people participating in that. That's the No King March. And also, you know, there's the big military parade this weekend.
Oh my gosh, do I ever. Yeah. I just love to see all of that waste of money on giant parades in front of a review stand.
45 million. Did you see that they were asking, reporters were asking Republican members of Congress or lawmakers about the 45 million cost? And some of them just didn't answer the question. Some of them stared off into space. Some of them ducked into elevators. Like when you ask them about the cost, they don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's extraordinary. And the cost of taking the Marines here to Los Angeles, that was immense. And there's no provision made for housing them, feeding them, etc. It's a colossal waste of money. These people waste money in so many different ways. A lot of them have to do with these performative exercises of one sort or another, but it's a serious game. So I wish it was all laughable. There is an absurdity to it. I understand there's a cartoonish aspect to it, but by the same token, it's deeply disturbing. So I'm doing Jessica Denson's show today. I'm guesting there. So if anybody is a regular viewer or listener of that show,
is that live?
You'll find me. That's I think at 4 o'clock or 4:15 Pacific time, so 7:15 in the East. And I hope it's Pacific time. I think it's Pacific time. Otherwise, I'm late.
Better double check that.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that because people have asked me to mention this before, in Los Angeles, I'll be on KFI Radio Sunday 4 to 6.
Okay.
And there are other dates coming up I'll be on, but I got a few emails saying, why can't you tell us when you're going to be on? And it's a very different show. It's not like this when I do KFI, but it's got its own magic, and I really love radio, and I love my brothers and sisters at KFI Radio, so it's really cool to be over there as well. Albert, if you have anything, now is the time to say it, sir. What do you have?
We're all good.
Okay.
Very good show.
Do I have to,
Albert, thank you.
Have to recognize anything or acknowledge anyone? No, I've done all of that. Please tell me.
I think we're all caught up.
What's that? We're all caught up? I love it. Wow, this is extraordinary. Well, I'll tell you something. I think we have situations developing across America and sadly across the world that are going to require a lot of attention over the weekend. We will watch it for you. We will comment on it for you. We had talked about dropping a video this weekend, a really good conversation I had with a professor and scientist. If we don't drop it this weekend, we'll drop it next weekend. But it kind of depends on external events and this sort of thing. Thank you for supporting the show all the ways you do. Those of you who have lingered here at the end, you're probably already supporters, but You can visit themarkthompsonshow.com, click Patreon or PayPal, and get to all the ways you can support us monthly and be part of our community that grows every hour. And now, Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
We are out of time. After Party Live is hosted by Kim.
Bye-bye.
Rock it out. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.